Gorbachev today became the first communist head of state ever to win the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee praised him for his leadership in the world peace process and for bringing greater openness to Soviet society. Barry Peterson got reaction in Moscow.
He had a winner's smile and a winner's words. I'm moved, excited. It's a recognition of the changes we call perestroika.
Ибо это наша судьба.
The fate of this vast country, he said, is the fate of the world, and this award inspires us.
It's recognition of his role in changing our world for the better, and it really changed unrecognizably for 5 years.
Many Soviets think of the Peace Prize as something created in the West and important to the West. In his own country, Gorbachev is being judged not by his achievements, but by his failure to make life better.
Ну, лучше бы он, конечно.
He's a fighter for peace, says this man, but he should pay more attention to our life here. During the time he's been in power, she says, the people have become disgusted. He's responsible for that. Once again today, this nation's parliament waited for Gorbachev's economic plan, and the deadline was missed again.
So he has his strong points and his weak points. I wouldn't think he has deserved a Nobel Prize in economics, for instance.
Still, across this nation today, it was a time to remember before Gorbachev, when Soviet leaders wanted to dominate the world, not change it. Time to remember the war in Afghanistan. Gorbachev called it a terrible mistake and brought his soldiers home. The Cold War melted as Gorbachev walked Ronald Reagan through Red Square. The communist bloc behind something we once called the Iron Curtain is now a collection of the world's newest democracies. Soviet troops are coming home from there as well. And at home, there is Glasnost. Voices kept silent for generations are allowed to shout, and Gorbachev stays to listen. Soviets remember Andrei Sakharov, the only other Soviet to win the Peace Prize. Gorbachev freed Sakharov from internal exile and freed his nation's conscience at the same time. Today, Gorbachev said on winning the prize, "I feel like the successor to Sakharov." And what motivated him? Gorbachev offered no fancy words, no socialist rhetoric, only a modest truth. We couldn't continue to live as we had. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Moscow.
President Bush went out barnstorming for Republican candidates today, trying to pin blame for the budget chaos on congressional Democrats. The Democrats see his weak leadership and waffling as the blame. From Capitol Hill, Bob Schieffer has the latest. Bob?
Dan, faced with another weekend deadline when the government may have to shut down again, the remarkable thing is both sides still seem convinced they can blame the other side for the mess. The latest White House rocket came from Air Force One.
American people seem to understand by significant numbers that it's up in the Congress, and it's the Congress to blame. So we'll just keep the focus there and still try to work cooperatively with the leaders to get a deal.
Says you, said the Democratic Speaker of the House.
The whole process is one in which he is a participant. He's not someone standing outside complaining it's not happening fast enough. He's one of the reasons it didn't happen fast enough, if anyone is.
On the House floor, a Democrat just back from a home district parade said voters are beyond fixing blame. They're mad at all sides.
I think the man on the parade route said it the best. He shouted out, "Barbara, what are you doing here? Go back to Washington and do your job."
In Illinois, vandals trashed the home of House Republican leader Bob Michel, who's been trying to craft a bipartisan approach. And today he predicted the House will probably approve a plan backed by Democrats, which hits hardest at higher income voters, reduces cuts in Medicare, and avoids a gas tax.
And I suspect, as I indicated, that we're going to get rolled in the House of Representatives tomorrow with the kind of package that's going to be presented by our opposition.
That kind of a approach is also getting some support from Democrats in the Senate, but with the White House virtually certain to reject it, and with House Republicans now coming up with a plan that calls for spending cuts and no new taxes, and Democrats will never accept that, the partisanship is running stronger than ever. So the approach now is, the prediction now is, that the whole process may collapse again. Dan?
Bob Schieffer, thanks. As if the budget circus and the savings and loan debacle aren't enough, questions were raised today about the financial health of some of the biggest and best-known insurance companies in this country. Mark Phillips has a report about that.
Hurricanes like Hugo occasionally blow in from the sea. Earthquakes like San Francisco's rumble up from below. And insurance companies are supposed to pay off when disaster strikes. But the deepening financial rumblings of a coming recession have cast doubt on whether the structure of some insurance companies can survive despite their claims.
Just suppose another tornado rips up our Meadville plant. Then what?
Faith in many of America's financial institutions has been shaken by the S&L fiasco, and insurance companies have become the latest cause for concern.
Will insurance companies follow savings and loans and commercial banks as the next industry to face possible solvency problems?
The consumer group Public Citizen today charged that if a series of natural disasters similar to last year's hit the United States at the same time as an economic downturn, 5 of the top 20 property and casualty insurance companies could go under. That some companies are vulnerable because they've done just what the savings and loan industry did, invest in junk bonds or bad property deals. It was an argument immediately denounced by the insurance industry.
It would have to be an extremely severe downturn in which most of corporate America would be wiped out before we'd be concerned.
The insurance industry is not the next S&L crisis. We do have problems.
Problems, some analysts say, not so much in property insurance, but in life insurance, where more companies have made risky investments that have gone sour.
The kinds of investments that life insurance companies have made that have made them sensitive to an economic downturn include junk bonds, include leveraged buyouts, include mortgages.
The concern is that public confidence has already been so shaken in financial institutions that the mere suggestion of trouble could precipitate a new crisis, this time in the insurance industry. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Washington.